Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne, America's #1 take action success coach and strategist, empowering, educating, inspiring, and igniting people like you to take action with jet propulsion. We assist people to find, embrace their life purpose, live their highest vision, become the next best version of themselves, because there's many versions of us, and forge a strong foundation to soar to success. If you want more information, visit us at ldcstrategies.com or coachlorianne.com, whatever works for you. Here at Healthy Lifestyle, we always want to empower our minds, educate hearts, inspire action, ignite success, and light you up with possibilities. So we're going to give you a lot of caffeine today, because today on our show, we have the Funinator. Ellen Koronet is amazing. She is from LNKcreative.com. Ellen knows how to have fun. She knows how to help us in business have fun and how we can connect. She is the gamification. So she gamifies things for us, and she builds quizzes and things like that to connect all of us. We'll talk more about that, but you want to stay tuned. A little bit about my friend Ellen. Ellen is an applied anthropologist and brand personality strategist. That is a fancy title, I got to tell you, but she is fancy. Ellen has observed that every brand is an extension of people who create and deliver it. And by connecting through play and possibilities, we can leap right into solid relationships with people who truly resonate with our mission, our products, and our services. She is a well sought after focus group moderator, a researcher, and she's been doing this from the 1980s until 2000s. Ms. Koronet, I like to call her Ellen, was dedicated to uncovering beliefs, opinions, attitudes, and behaviors associated with a wide variety of healthcare products and therapeutic categories. She established LNK Creative in the mid-2010s to apply her psychosocial, nonverbal, creative-based expertise to lead magnet quiz and personality assessment designs. And I got to tell you, she helped me with my quiz, my Super Bowl quiz assessment, and she is absolutely amazing. So you want to stay tuned. Ellen, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack, because as someone who gamifies things, it doesn't resonate with a lot of people because they don't do it, right? But you have fun. And I love one of your websites. It's quizqueen.fun. That just sums you up. I love that. It absolutely sums you up. But LNK, Larry Nancy King, creative.com is your website. So what is an applied social science approach? And why is it important to marketing, just in general?
And actually, I think I'll answer that and answer what is gamification at the same time.
Okay.
Because an applied anthropologist is taking more than just what people expect from each other. So when you ask somebody a question, they'll give you an answer, right? But it's often informed by whatever they just saw on the news, or whatever they're thinking about, or whatever they're used to saying, or what they want you to think, right? So an applied anthropologist or an applied social scientist is taking the discipline of the social science and applying it to everyday things that we're trying to do in a way that takes you beyond the expected.
Yeah.
Because we understand it's sort of a psychological approach at a group level. So we understand the way people want to feel seen and heard. And that's what gamification is about too. It's, drawing you in so you're having fun while you're doing it and you're not thinking about what you want to say or
over analyzing it or anything like that. You just have a good time. So is there a difference between an assessment and a quiz?
Yes. I like to think of a quiz as a short, sweet, fun, catchy, it's got a cute little title and, just sort of grabs you in and doesn't take a lot of time and effort. It can still be quite deep and provocative. It doesn't have to be surfacey, but in fact, it shouldn't be surfacey. But an assessment is what you would more likely develop over time, with many interviews ahead of time, with a lot of, your own expertise. And then you would likely want to charge for it, because that's going to be something that you've developed into a two-way street. You're giving a lot more than you give in a quick quiz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And in an assessment, I love utilizing assessments and my quiz particularly because it really gives me good insight on how I can help someone where they are in their process because everybody's at a different place. So I like to meet people where they are, but I need to understand where they are. So for my quiz, particularly that you did the Super Bowl quiz, it really meets people exactly where they are. I know where to start with them because I already have this data in. And that data helps me really get them there, get farther faster because I don't have to do all that discovery work. Assessments is really a nice deep dive too. I really like to grab all that data. And it empower. I don't you think it empowers people?
Absolutely. It's even when you're asking the right questions, they're already doing the work. They're already thinking, "Oh, I didn't think of it that way before. Well, let me go there." And you come up with your own ahas while you're just sitting and answering the questions. So, and especially if you do it in a way that doesn't require people to stop and figure it out, if you're really reaching them, like you said, where they are. So the difference between a quiz and an assessment is really semantic because you can make a shorter assessment and still go very deep. You can make a longer quiz and still get them off the phone quick, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, 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 and still get the information you want. I really see that, having this approach is so perfect for coaches and consultants in general, is when we go in there as a coach or consultant, which is kind of interchangeable too. I think that too is something that it's like, well, it's a fine line between the two because we're doing both. Um, but in particular, being able to go in and assess the people that you're working with, really having that baseline. Are you a proponent of reassessment where as you go in, you go back and you check, you pulse point? Do you?
Absolutely. I do a lot of work for organizations that need to measure the impact that they're having and coaches who need to measure the impact. So you definitely want to start with something like a lead magnet quiz where you're asking sort of the baseline, where are you at? What are you struggling with? What are your pain points? What do you aspire to? All those things. And, within the brand, within the type of coaching that you do or the product that you're offering. And then you want to check in as you're going through the process and see what's moving. And sometimes I even suggest early, middle, late, before, during, and after.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because I think it's a good way to show, because some of the stuff that we do is, especially as coaches and consultants, some of the things we do is so subtle that people forget that we were part of the process. It's so subtle, but if you
Oh,
look
yeah.
at it and say, hey, listen, this is where you were, and now you're here. And the only differential is the fact that you walked along and we did the journey together. Sometimes that helps pointing that out as well, because sometimes I listen to some people who come to me and they're like, yeah, the coach didn't do anything for me. And I was like, what did they? And so we'll go back and they're like, oh, yeah, no, they did do that. Oh, yeah, right, right, right. And I didn't think of that. And it's through utilizing their previous assessments, is because I always ask, did they have an assessment? Did they have a quiz? Did they have? So how did you get into, because this is what I do. I ask questions like this, very personal. How did you get into wanting to do this? I mean, you're fun to begin with. So you're just a delight and just a wonderful human being. So how did you get into doing the quizzes and getting involved in doing this and then being this uber technical person? You are like a tech extraordinaire. And I'm pretty good at tech, but holy moly, you do equations. You do math. I don't do math.
So let me back up for a second
Yeah.
before I answer. You got to hold that question for me and
Putting a
remind
pin in
me.
it.
Because when you were talking about the reassessing and helping to show the impact that you're having on a one-to-one basis,
Yeah.
there's also a quantitative component to this that's phenomenally powerful because once you've done, 100, 200, I don't know, care how, even 50 of these, processes, you can now go and look at all of your before data, all of your after data, and you can actually make some real validated claims.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly powerful because you've standardized and personalized at the same time. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the goal. So how I got into it is really, it goes back to graduating from college with a degree in anthropology. My father was a professor of political science, and he said, "Don't you go into academics. You're not going to make any money." He said, "Yeah, it's a big nursery school circus. You just don't want to do this." So he sent me off to talk to marketing research executives in ad agencies in Chicago.
Yeah.
And these were political scientists who had jumped over from the academic side to business. And they got me started. It looked fascinating to me. So, and then to go from the sort of quantitative and qualitative, I did a lot of focus group moderating and started to use creativity techniques in the ways that we were, gamifying the interview. We were trying to get more, especially out of doctors and nurses, trying to get them. At the time, they would all grab their phone to answer any question you asked them. So we had to say, no, you're not allowed to do that. So we made them do things like collages and, just crazy, interesting stuff that you wouldn't think an academic or a scientist would want to do. And we got so much further. And so that's where I started to really, explore ways that I could use the creativity design thinking techniques
Yeah.
in research.
We really need to get out of our head. And I think this process helps us get out of our head. And because I overanalyze, because I can game a game, so and that's not the purpose of it. So it's like, stop it, just do it, just take it, however you feel that day, because it could be different. And I found that when I pulse point, depending on where they are in their head that day, depends on what the research is, what the results are, but it comes really close. It's not a big variable, it's a small variable, but there's still a variable. So when you have a 1 to 5 answer, it could be a 4 today but a 5 tomorrow. But that variable isn't big enough to really differentiate, at least in my quiz, the bounce pattern that you have, which helps me understand where to start, like where your blocks are and things. That's what the bounce pattern actually tells me. In mine. But here's a question that really comes to mind, because we always do this target audience segmentation, right? Like, what are the benefits? What's the value of replacing that target audience with doing the gamified quiz or assessment?
So in the pharmaceutical world, and in corporate America in general, millions of dollars are spent on segmentation studies,
Right.
right? And that is really the basic concept of, we got to get to the right people with the right attitudes, the right demographics, the right, behaviors. And they're the ones that we want because we know they're going to be more interested in buying our product or service. And what tends to happen is, there's a wonderful story in the military about designing airplanes for the average person, for the pilot, and nobody could fly the plane because nobody's the average. So that's the problem with segmentation. That's the
Yeah.
problem with target audiences that just go on what you think is out there. When you're sitting in your little ivory tower in your head, you can't possibly relate to the specific mix of attitudes, behaviors, and demographics.
Yes, yes. I get excited when you say stuff like this, because the avatar. I have a problem with the avatar process, and I always got stuck on it. When I first started a long time ago, a very long time, don't do math. So when I first started, I was, they're like, create your avatar. Do they carry a briefcase? Are they wearing pants? And I'm like, I don't know. It depends on the day. So I would always have a hard time with doing the avatar because it was putting people in a box. And that's when I dumbed down avataring to, it's one version of a former self. It's you a couple of versions ago, or it could be the last version of you. It depends on who you're talking to. So I could talk to someone who was 3 versions ago of me, or I can talk to someone who's 1 version ago of me. But all I know is I've been there, done that. That's why I can relate to the person, and that's why they become my client, and that's why they gravitate towards me, because that is my avatar. Because when I did research on avatar, because it was driving me crazy, Ellen, I did research on it, and I found that in every single case, it emulated the person doing the avatar. So, for someone like me, one day I would carry a briefcase, and another case, no, I'd probably carry a Gucci purse. It just depended on my outfit. So, like, there was no place for that in the avatar building sequence that I was getting from men, because they were like, what? But that's why we pack the way we do too. So men pack differently than women do. So, it's not a right or wrong. It's a connection. And some
Yes,
people connect with my version and some connect with the, very strict version.
I
But
think
I kind of
super smart.
liken your target audience with your
Yes.
quiz.
No, that's super smart. And in the user experience world, in the online, data, internet services, they work with personas. And I have a huge problem. It's the same thing you're talking about. I have a huge problem with the cartoonish result that you get from that nobody can relate to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it almost, it's worse than pigeonholing. If
Hmm.
you have to look like this, well, everybody doesn't look like that. Matter of fact, I don't want to look like that. Even if I wanted to look like that because you told me I should look like that, I don't want to look like that. So maybe a little bit still. I'm working on it. So it's really cool. I think there's a value of fun that adds the element to really getting good data back. But the thing I was attracted to, especially when working with you, was the process of the data collection and what is it that we're looking for? What information are we trying to draw out from this question? How do we ask the question without leading them to an answer? Because we all know we can lead people with questions. I can easily ask you a question to have you answer a certain way. That's easy to do. So that was the intriguing thing too, of how brilliant you are with, do you really want to ask it this way or that? So what goes on in that beautiful mind of yours?
Uh, every time I start on a new project, no matter how obvious it may seem, I take my clients through what I call strategic bubble mapping. And it's a process that I've developed over many years that's based on creative design thinking. It's based on statistical analysis of large research studies. And what I figured out is that we can we can map out the customer journey based on what the brand, what the person behind the brand really wants out of their brand. And you can actually really begin to relate to your customers if you understand where they're starting, the pain points, and what brings them to you, and then what you do to start to sort through those pain points, and then the benefits. And then usually most coaches, most brands stop right there. They know what the bigger picture looks like. They know what the why behind all of that is, but they forget to talk about it. So when we really map from the pain point all the way through to the outcome using these exercises, that's when we really begin to understand what the real measures are. And then in terms of not leading, that's based on decades of experience. I know how to, frame things, and I like to use scales rather than multiple choice because multiple choice always leaves some gaps. You can't quite find yourself. So
Yeah, yeah.
I use attitudinal, they're called psychographics. I use psychographics.
Okay. It has a fancy name.
It has
Uh,
a fancy name.
yeah,
Everything
no,
has a fancy name.
yeah, especially when you're using it too. It's
Mhm.
very fancy. Um, the psychographics though are really helpful to not leave those gaps in there because I recently was assessing somebody else's assessment and there's a lot of gaps in it. And I was just like, and they were asking leading questions and they asked me to assess it. And just through asking a couple of questions, they do need the scale as opposed to the multiple choice. Because I'm like, well, sometimes I'm here and sometimes I'm there. But because you put me in a box, I'm forced to pick a certain thing. And that's not really representing me. It's representing part of me sometimes. And
Mhm.
we're not everything all the time. So they always say, well, pick the best closest answer. But again, best closest doesn't necessarily get you close. In this particular assessment I'm talking about, I had a friend take it and she wasn't even close to what she is based on her answer. She goes, but I didn't have an answer that I felt comfortable with on many of the questions. And I
Right.
saw a big skew, and I didn't expect that, Ellen. Why would that happen?
So research absolutely shows, and I can tell you this from decades of surveys, quantitative surveys. When you give people a scale, even if it's on a continuum, you give people choices that don't go across from each other very well, or that are situational. Sometimes I'm here, sometimes I'm there. It depends on what's going on. They're always going to pick the middle
Oh,
because they can't pick either one, and
right.
that leaves you feeling sort of frustrated and a little anxious, and it takes longer to answer questions, and you don't get good quality responses, and the person on the other side of that collecting the data is never going to know because you didn't give them a chance to explain.
Yeah.
So that's why it happens. It's
Yeah.
because we're forcing um unreal dichotomies.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, we're going to continue this conversation because it's very interesting. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne, and we're going to take a short break, come back with Ellen. You can find more information about Ellen Koronet at her website at lnkcreative.com. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne, America's #1 take action success coach and strategist. If you'd like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or non-for-profit, just email us at Healthy Lifestyle with LA. Or if you have a question or comment, we love to hear from you. We really do, and we answer all of our emails. Please email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. I want to jump right back here with Ellen because we jumped out when we were talking about, sitting in the middle of the road and not really having defined answers, and making sure your quiz or assessment or the ones that you're taking really are definitive. I know that one of the things I saw you do was Ignite Talk, which is similar to a TED Talk. Might even be a little bit better than a TED Talk at these days, but the Ignite Talk, you were awesome. You were on fire. You were ignited. But in it, you were talking about, the introvert, extrovert, things like. So let's talk more about, how you embarked on this and how you found this, because I know this is a discovery of yours.
Yes. So in the marketing research world, and when we're using psychographics and segmentation, and also in the coaching world and in human resources, when you're working with teams and you're building, trying to figure out what kind of employees you're hiring, we use a lot of Jungian concepts. We use a lot of these, old-fashioned hierarchical kind of
Stringent
yeah,
structures.
yeah, very structured, very much boxed in. So I started doing some research on this, and I found that even the big thinkers on introversion and extroversion and on personality typing, they're still giving us these dichotomous choices. Do you like to be in a crowd, or do you like to be by yourself? Do you like this, or do you like that?
Yeah.
Do you usually do this, or do you usually do that? And the answer is no. I don't I don't usually do either. I depends on what's going on, right?
Depends
So
on what it is. If it's a concert and I want to go, yeah, I'll go to it. If it's not, I'll stay home. So what does that mean? How do I answer that question?
right. And then there's a lot of conclusions have been drawn that, introverts don't make good leaders. That's baloney.
That's so not true.
It's not true. So
Actually, they're very
I
good.
designed my own research using a quiz methodology where I'm measuring both. You can have a certain level of introversion, you can have a certain level of extroversion, and it depends on the situation. And they can both go up, they can both go down. It doesn't have to be either or. It's
Yeah.
a yes and proposition.
Yes, and yeah.
Really important. So the Ignite talk is an inspirational, motivational. It's supposed to support community nonprofits. And so the whole idea is what can we give back to our communities? So I gave the talk on how we never see straight lines in nature. And so we should interact with each other that way too. We shouldn't be forcing each other to go on this, notched path. And you can actually take the quiz. It is free, and I've actually translated it into Spanish as well. So people
Oh,
can take it in Spanish or in English. And the results that I'm getting back are just phenomenally interesting.
amazing. Yeah, we'll include the link with this episode so that you could take the quiz. Also, what I'd like to do is include the link for your Ignite talk, because I think once they hear that, it'll be clearer. And then once they take it, it'll be a lot of fun. But so take us through what you learned so far with your introvert extrovert experiment.
Uh, I mean, there's so many wonderful little things popping out, but one example of an insight that I didn't expect is that very few people are very highly extroverted in every situation or most of the time. And when you measure the level of extroversion and the level of introversion, they're both higher for the extroverts. People who really feel comfortable in a outgoing and social and getting that feedback and the collaboration and they just love giving like this. They also have a pretty high level of introversion. They understand that it's good, energetic hygiene to go inside to replenish.
Oh
Like,
my gosh, you just explained me. I always said you're not going to believe this, but I'm really shy, so and it takes a lot for me to go out, but once I'm out, I'm fine. But it's getting me there that's the hard part. So, oh my gosh, look at that. Yeah.
yes. And then there are people who are highly introverted and they do not have a high level of extroversion. And then there's all the people who are able to move these levers up and down. And that's what I'm calling flexiverts. And I think a lot of us are flexiverts.
Yeah.
And it's just so much easier to think of yourself as a flexivert than as an extroverted introvert. I mean, what
Right.
the heck does that mean?
That's a lot of hurting.
Right.
Yeah, no, I like that. Is Flexivert your own word?
Hmm.
Yeah, I love that Flexivert because it's so true. I know so many people that, we're just as happy putting on our PJs and sitting and reading a book as we are going out to a party. And once we're at the party, it just depends on where we are. It depends on it's our environment that decides where we're going to be. So, I'm just as content at reading a book as going out to a big party and interacting and being social. So
We
it's
also live in a society that is very extrovert centric, tends to reward extroversion, tends
how do you
to
mean?
uh, the more out there you are, the more rich and famous you are, the more everybody knows your name, that's success. Like, you know,
To some people, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, as a society, we tend to reward that more than somebody who wants to stay home, bake cookies, and then take them to the neighbor. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, you're right. We do that. It's silly. It's silliness. Because success is a definition. You need to define what success is for yourself.
Mhm.
And I know in my coaching program when I'm coaching people and they say they want to be successful, I was like, well, what does that mean to you? It's interesting what they say. And some people are like, I want to, have a jet, a yacht and a jet. And I was like, okay, why? And then we figure out that they don't want a yacht and a jet. They just want to know somebody who has a yacht and a jet, and that's okay. That's okay. What's the best yacht and jet you could ever have? Knowing somebody who has one. So that's an interesting thing. Why are you encouraging organizations? Because I know you are. You're encouraging organizations to really redefine psychotherapy.
Psychographics or
Psychographics, yeah, sorry.
right, yeah. Or the way that we type our employees and the
Yeah,
way we build teams and the way we encourage people to interact with each other.
insane.
Because when you are pushing people into an ill-fitting box and then asking them to interact with each other that way, you're shutting down the natural exchange, the more organic exchange of ideas and collaboration and empathy and, I hate to say it, but equity and inclusion,
Oh
right?
no, not that.
And I've actually developed an instrument for measuring diversity, equity, and inclusion just in terms of who you have lunch with. I work with an executive coach who came up with this idea that people will expand their worldviews if they make an effort to read books by people who are not like them. So
That's true. Yeah.
it's things like that
That's why
when
that stuff doesn't resonate with me because I was brought up surrounded by a lot of different people with a lot of different religions and a lot of different back. And I'm just, well, what makes me a good coach is because I'm curious, George, anyway. I'm like, really? You're Jewish? Tell me about it. I was a Catholic in a very highly Jewish area. So I got to learn all about Jewish. And then I was like, well, what's Hinduism? I met somebody who was Hindu. I was like, tell me more. And I read up on that. And then Buddhism, and I read up on that. And, just from the religious standpoint. And also, I was in performing arts. So I was always surrounded by a real diverse group of people. So that was natural to me. So I've never resonated with what's the problem here? What I gravitate to, smart people who are smarter than me, because I learn from them, and I am just so attracted to smart people. It is just so interesting to me, and like to you, it's so interesting how you think. And I went to law school because I enjoyed the way the lawyers I was working with think. I didn't want to be a lawyer. I just wanted to learn how to think the way they do, where they put all the emotions aside and they really just go on what the issue is. They just issue focus. And I was like, I need to learn how to think like that because that's really interesting. So I don't understand that thinking process. So give us an example of how your psychographics would be more enhancing to an HR department to really get people to interact as opposed to forcing the matter. Because I've seen that in some of my clients when I'm consulting with them. And I was like, this is never going to work because it's like this. And that creates the animosity where they're not working together like a team. So what does that work out? Give us an example of how your methodology works.
so uh when um when you're looking at, like, let's say you're looking at the board of directors and then the staff and then the the customers, and you're trying to understand how you can get all these different elements to work together. If you do assessments like a Myers-Briggs that really is based on these false opposites, are you more like this or are you more like that? Oh, you're sort of in the middle. And if you take it again, it'll change because you change over time, but you haven't got any real insight into what your gifts are, what you
Yeah,
can give back out, and how you can move across these barriers.
right.
Yeah, so when people have a more
Too generic.
fluid, yeah, have a more fluid definition of self and have a more a resonant definition of self, they're going to be much better able to listen and give. And it breaks down those false walls.
See, and I find that the false walls are, and it goes back to what you said. I think the false walls, I would define it as the insecurities because they don't know really who they are. So if you give them a tool like a quiz or an assessment, and they have an idea, a better idea, confirmation. Sometimes we need, for some reason, external confirmation of who we really are, and these assessments do that. But it also gives us the confirmation from like our HR departments, where they're like, yeah, we get it. Your superpower is here, and we're going to keep you over here because that's where your superpower is. I know you have other powers over here. We can develop those and strengthen those, but this is where you are. I love that. And that's what you can find out in doing quizzes and assessments. That's what you're
And
talking.
that's why some are better than others. I don't even really need to name names, but there are a few that I think are really good. And I think your quiz is actually just like that because you're helping people understand how they think, how they approach things, where are the things that are tripping them up, and then how can they unleash that energy and move it all in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, if they so choose. And they could stay exactly where they are. That's the whole cool with my process is whatever you decide is absolutely 100% right for you at the time. And you might change your mind 2 days later, and that's okay too. But if you have this information by awareness, and everything starts with awareness, we can make a whole host of choices get thrown in front of us, and we can make a whole lot of different choices if we so choose. And that's the journey. I always say I go on a journey with my clients. Similar to you, that's the journey we go on as we're exploring this, to find out, well, what do you want to do? Now you know this. Now you're a blue convertible. Now what do you want to do? You're a blue convertible. What do you want to do now? Maybe I want to repaint my car. Okay, that's fine too. So those things I think are really important. And thank you for saying that. And the only reason why it is as good is because of you. You really walked me through that process with the bubbles. You walked me through the process with asking the questions, insightful questions that you asked, so that we got the results. So it would act as a really good tool for me to help coach, and also a really good tool for them to understand what their bounce pattern is. Because once you know what your bounce pattern is, there are no bad bounce patterns. They're just some are more energetic than others. And we just need to harness that energy so you can really move forward. Because sometimes we get in our own way. Because when that shiny object comes up, we're like, ooh, pretty. Oh no, especially with social media the way it is now. So also, like, how do individuals benefit from learning about their um, own affinities, and how do we redefine that?
Yeah, I have a quiz that I did for a coach who works with chakras. And a lot of people know what chakras are,
Yep. Energy centers. If you
yeah,
don't know, they're energy centers
energy
in the
centers
body.
that go from down here to up there, whatever.
So
Um,
they're in the center of our bodies. Just for those who don't know what chakras are, look it up, Google it. But it's in the center. It goes all the way through our body. Just picture a string from the top of your head all the way down to your bum, if you will. And there's 7 that we look at in US, but there's 14 in the Asian community. The last 7 are very, very difficult. That's why US doesn't look at that. So it gets very detailed. It's very ancient science related. So that's another episode, another day.
Right. So the answer to your question is when you take something like that that a lot of people think they know a lot about, but then you break it down into her way of looking at, and you did this too, your way of looking at the way we use our energy. What you end up with is every question, and it's sort of you get sort of into this nice little pattern. You get used to the scale and you go, oh, that's like me, that's not like me, that's like me, that's not like me. Or I do that all the time. I never do that, whatever the scale is. And so by the time they've gone through 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 of these, they're like, oh, I didn't really think about it that way. And you're already walking away with a better sense of like affirmation and validation. And, you feel like this person gets you, that who's asking the questions. And then you come to the end and it gives you not only an analysis of where you are relative to other people, but what you can do with it. What's next? Let's get excited because now we understand better. So
Yeah.
that's hugely empowering.
Yeah, unbelievable. Again, everything starts with awareness. So when you're aware, and then I love this that they give the benefits of, where what they can do with it if they so choose to. It goes back to choices like we were just talking about, right? So that is a great way. To look at people. I like to look for 2 things when I work with a business. I follow the money because that tells me everything, and I look for patterns. Patterns are the secret to anyone's success. If you look for patterns, you will find what is making you successful or what is holding you back. And it's just a matter of asking the right questions and finding those patterns. And once you do, you have the equation that you're looking for. And that's what, when you see these people, these overnight success people, it's because they have years of experience being able to see what things work, what things don't work in their particular industry. So, so what's next on the gamification land of Miss Ellen?
So encouraging organizations to come on board with me and get this introvert extrovert construct redefined. Let's get it out there. Let's apply it. And what's right behind that is every other of the easily grabbed. When somebody asks you, are you an introvert or an extrovert, you know what to answer because you've heard it enough, you thought about it.
I'm a Flex-ivert.
Okay, but there are many things like that. Are you creative or are you analytic? Yeah, I want to break these down. I want to stop doing
I'm
that.
both.
You are, yeah, exactly. And it depends on what the situation is and what does it mean to be creative? What are the aspects of
I always blamed it on the fact that I was a Pisces. I don't know.
But you're drawing on aspects of each of these things in different ways. And so that's what I would love to be able to continue to redefine so we can talk to each other better.
Yeah, no, I love the redefinition. You need to write a book, girl, because this is really important that people understand. And there's a level of freedom knowing that you're a flexible, or there's a name for it. It's almost like finding out, oh, I have the flu. That's why I don't feel good. Oh, I have a cough. That's why I don't feel good. We put a title on it. It makes us feel better for some reason. I don't know why, but it really does. So being able to know and identify that you're not crazy, you're normal. We're all Abby normal. But this is who we are and it's okay, and embracing that. And I love that. I know you do speaking engagements. People need to call you for speaking engagements, and they can go on your website, lnkcreative.com, email you, reach out to you so you could speak about this with their people. I really encourage HR departments need to reach out to you. Corporations need to reach out to you so that they could do quizzes and assessments. There are really nice box ones out there. I won't say the names of them, but they do put you in a box. Whereas this really acts as a tool of expansion, both for the employer and the employee. So I really encourage people to reach out to Ellen Koronet. Ellen, any last words?
People should take your quiz too.
Oh, thank you. My Super Bowl quiz. Yeah, if you want that, that'll be in the down there too. It always is with all of my episodes. So take the quiz, find out what you bounce with, have a quick free session with me, and I'll explain everything to you. I'll explain life to you. In the meantime, thank you so much for being on. You are super, super wonderful.
Thank you so much. This is really a blast.
Yeah, you're so good, and I'm so excited about your discoveries. So we want to get Flex-iverts out there. Thank you all again for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we earned the privilege of your time. Again, I want to thank our guest today, Ellen Koronet. She is amazing. LNKCreative.com, or you can go to quizqueen.fun, which I love. So encapsulates my good friend. Look for us at our next show, which is next Saturday at 3 p.m. on JVC Broadcasting and iHeartRadio. And we also can be found on all major platforms. And we would be so grateful if you please like, follow, share, and subscribe. In the meantime, until next time, I am Coach Lorianne, America's #1 take action success coach and strategist. Let your dreams be bigger than your fears, and let your life be filled with joy. And I mean filled with joy. Play a higher role, serve a higher purpose, show up for you, and show up big. I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye, Ellen. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.